All right, so for number 18 here, in section 1.5 in your textbook, it says for each object, its volume v and some dimensions are given. Calculate the dimension indicated by the variable. So we're calculating the missing piece. This is not just calculating volume. Now we're using volume and we're using the formula to calculate the missing piece. So we've done this before, but look at in 8a how h is the missing piece. So we have the length here, we have the width here, but we don't have the height, but we do have the volume. So for 8a, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to write out your formula. Okay, always start with the formula here, and the volume for this prism is length times width times height, because that is the area of the base, length times width, and then extended upwards the height. Okay, so that's how we get the whole volume of the whole thing there. Okay, everybody see that? The whole thing. So if that's the formula, look at what I'm given. I'm given the volume, so let's plug that in, 88.8. So that's the volume, so put that in the volume spot. I'm also given the length, which is 3.2, so we'll plug that in the length spot. I'm given the width, 5.9, and I don't have the height. So what you're going to do is just leave h in for the unknown. That's the unknown. We want to solve for the height. Okay? So anybody want to tell me what would be your first step? How would we find the height here? What would we do?
Divided by 3.2 times 5.9.
Okay, so we want to divide, that's right, both sides by 3.2 times 5.9. So this is what we have on the right side with the with h that we don't really want, right? And we want to get rid of that. How do we get rid of it? We divide it off. And because it's an equation, what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So when we do this, right, we see that 3.2 is a factor on the top and the bottom. That divides out, and so does 5.9. Now when you're doing this on your calculator, you got to be careful, because if you don't use brackets, you might run into problems. Your calculator, if you don't use your brackets and you just type this in as 88.8 divided by 3.9 times 5.9, it'll do this first, and then it'll multiply this by 5.9, which is not the right answer. So you have to be careful. Your calculator may or may not know what you mean. So use brackets. I'll show you what I mean. So 88.8 divided by, so then I would use a bracket here and say 3.2 times 5.9. Use an end bracket. So now 88 is being divided by this whole product, which is really what you want. Now if you wanted to evaluate that product first, that's a great idea as well. Okay? So 4.7 is your answer, but what I mean is if you want to do this first and say, okay, what's 3.2 times 5.9? 5.9, and just get one number out of that, so 18.88. So it looks like this, 18.88h equals 88.8. See that? A lot of 8s there. But now you can just divide one number off, and that might be a little bit easier, right? So let's make sure that's the same number. So 88.8 divided by 18.8, that should be the same number as I got up here. See that? So whichever way you do it, it's totally fine. If you understand how your calculator works and you want to do this all in one operation, that's totally fine. So 4, I think, tenth of a unit there, 4.7, right? Yeah. So 4.7 what? What's the unit here? I mean, you need to make sure you have units.
Centimeters.
Is it centimeters or centimeters cubed?
Centimeters.
It's just plain old centimeters. Yes. Very good. Okay. So why don't you take a minute and see if you can solve 18b. So go ahead and do 18b on your own, and I'll show you the answer here in a minute. Up here, if you've done, look up here now. And so what we want to do is I want to start off with the formula. So the volume is the area of the base, which is the square base, so it's x squared times the height, which is h, and then because it's a pyramid, divide by 3. All right? Is it frozen? Okay, sorry. Divide by 3. So what we want to do is we want to start filling these values in. So the volume is 554.9. X we don't know, so that's just x squared. The height is 15.1 over 3. So from here, what we want to do is we want to get x, right? We're trying to figure out what is x. So I have to get rid of the 3 and the 15.1 and the squared. I got to get rid of those 3 things. And so, of course, there's a certain order you want to maybe do those in. You don't want to do square root right away. You have to wait until it's just the x squared all by itself before you do square root. That has to be at the end. It's actually the order of operations backwards is what it is. That's how you solve. I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, but you can think about this. You do your subtraction addition first, so bring things over, move things over from one side to the other. Then you do your multiplication division next, then exponents, and then anything inside the brackets next. So we'll multiply by 3, both sides first. Okay? 3. And what'll that do? That'll get rid of the 3. So what's 554.9 times 3? That's going to be 1664.7. That's going to now equal x squared times 15.1. Okay? Is this lining up with what you guys are looking at? Am I do it this way? Yeah? So far? Okay. So again, we want to get rid of the 15.1. It's being multiplied. So let's do opposite operations. Say that's the division part now. So divide by 15.1. And again, what that will do is the 15.1 now. That'll be divided out. So we have x squared left. And then this answer here divided by 15.1. It's going to be 110.245. And so now, again, we get to the end here, and we have our exponents left, right? We want to get rid of that squared. I don't want x squared, I want x. And so what do we do to get rid of the squared? We do the opposite operation, which is square root, both sides. And it's on your calculator already, so you can just do square root. Find your answer button. You're going to need to use that answer button. It's going to be very helpful, save you a bunch of time, and be quite a bit more precise in your answers. So 10.4997 to the nearest tenth would be 10.5. And that's going to be meters. Okay, so there's the answer for 18B. Questions?